Hey guys, welcome back to more homeowner association stories. In this video, an HOA Karen called the police and banned me from my own pool so her entitled kids can use it instead. Let's dive right into the video. So I moved into my current neighborhood about 2 years ago. I know that there's a lot of places that give HOAs a bad reputation, but the one I moved to was actually nice. It was a nice suburban neighborhood far away enough from the busier streets of the town nearby that you didn't hear traffic. But the best thing about my house was that it had a pool. The previous owners had gotten permission from the HOA to build a decent-sized in-ground pool on their property. They also built a fence around it just to make sure the neighbors knew that it was not public. And I found out one of the other reasons why they built this fence. So after I moved in, I realized that my next door neighbor, I'm just gonna call her Karen, was very nosy. She would be outside if the weather was nice, just walking around her property and looking over fences or into windows of the houses nearby. I'd seen her outside at the end of spring with 3 kids, all of whom were just running all over the place. They were not supervised even if she was outside with them. I remember hearing cars honking when the youngest girl wandered into the street to get a ball her brother had thrown. Karen did not even move from where she was looking out across the street. I felt bad for those kids and for Karen. To an extent, they were younger, so they were probably just full of energy, and Karen did not look like she had a partner, so taking care of 3 kids all alone is rough. Anyway, fast forward to the summer. I was ready to take full advantage of my pool once the weather started to get hot. One afternoon on a weekend, I remember that because I didn't work that day, I had decided to take a dip in the pool. I laced around the shallow end of the pool, just floating and taking in the sunshine. All of a sudden though, I heard a kid scream and I saw Karen's kids jumping into the pool right next to me. The kids were splashing, having a fun time, while I was trying to figure out what had happened. I realized from the trail of beach towels and uninflated pool floats that the kids had wiggled their way under my fence to get to the pool. I had a gate of course, but because they were still young, they of course couldn't reach it. While I was looking at the gate, I saw Karen standing there, leaning up against the fence. Karen, hey OP, you enjoying the sunshine? Me, Karen, can you tell your kids to get out of here? They should not be in my pool. Karen, it's really rude to call that your pool. And besides, you're not using the whole thing, are you? Me, Karen, get your kids please, and this is my pool because it is on my property. Karen, are you sure? Because last I checked, as part of the HOA board, this pool is the neighborhood's property. Me, turning to the kids, can you please get out? Karen, my kids don't have to listen to you. You're not their parent. Stop talking to them. Me, kids, this is my pool, not yours. Can you please get out? And by the way guys, I like OP's strategy here of appealing to the kids because they actually might be more reasonable than their mother. Either way, Karen, you know that I can ban you from using the pool, right? Leave my kids alone and I won't bring this up to the HOA board. Me, turning back to Karen, sure, tell the board. I'll make sure to get proof that this area is mine and I will have you fined for trespassing. Karen, well guess what you idiot, you just got yourself banned from the pool. I guess that's better anyway. My kids can now use it without worrying about you. I got out of the pool at that point and decided to gather up all of the kids' towels and toys they had trailed from their entry point. That got the kids to move out of the pool, climbing out and shouting at me to give them back their stuff. I told them that they would get their things if they followed me to their mom, and they begrudgingly did so. When we reached Karen, I realized that she was on the phone with someone. I brought the kids out, gave them their things, and then shut the gate behind me, wanting to get this whole thing over with so I could go back to relaxing. Karen got off the phone with a smirk, telling me that I was gonna regret yelling at her and her kids, and I'm sure I raised my voice, but I didn't actually yell. Before he could ask why, I heard police sirens coming towards my house. A cruiser pulled up and I swear every single neighbor nearby was out of their house to watch what was going on. The officers that came out of the cruiser were nice, splitting up so one would take each of our statements. I explained that this was my house and that the pool was mine and Karen's kids had wiggled under the fence to use it. Karen stopped whatever she was saying to the officer and gave me a look that could have killed someone. Karen, how dare you accuse my kids? You're the one who assaulted us. Me, I'm sorry, what? Karen, you hurt me. These officers are here for me, not you, so stop spreading lies. Me, I've literally done nothing to you or your kids this whole time. You are on my property, by the way, and I wanted you to leave and I asked you to. Karen, shut up, you lying idiot. When I tell you I was more shocked that Karen pushed me in front of police officers than how much my back hurt when it hit the fence. She slapped me across the face before the officers could drag her away from me. All 3 of her kids were crying and she was just screaming. I couldn't think of what to do or even say. say. There were neighbors getting closer to my house now, drawn out by Karen's screams. One of them, to my horror, was the HOA president. I felt embarrassed that he had to see all of this just a few months after I moved in. He walked straight over to me and helped me get my bearings. HOA president: "Officers, what happened?" Karen: "Bill, oh thank God you're here." Officer number 1: "We had gotten a call from this woman," gesturing to Karen, "about how she and her kids were being harassed at the community pool." HOA president: "The community pool is 3 blocks down. I don't understand why you are at OP's house." Officer number 2: "The pool over there is what Karen was talking about." HOA president: "Well, that is not the community pool. It's never been a community pool." Karen: "I thought the board." HOA president: "Karen, did you threaten OP with the HOA board? What is wrong with you?" Bill, the best HOA president in the world, explained to the officers that something similar had happened before with the previous owner, but they claimed it was just a misunderstanding. He said that the pool was my property and that Karen and her kids had no right to enter without permission. Also, she was not actually a member of the HOA board, so she was lying about knowing where the property lines were. Karen was taken away for assault and trespassing, both of which I chose to press charges for. After what she had done and how she got her own kids involved in this situation, I wanted to show her that I was not afraid of her. Bill apologized for her behavior. He had apparently given her the benefit of the doubt too many times and was glad that he'd been able to help here. He took Karen's kids to a neighbor's house and let me head inside to figure out what to do next. I called a lawyer as soon as I got in the house and I gathered up everything I could about the property to show that Bill and I were right. My lawyer said that it would be more than enough and that she would contact the police for anything regarding the investigation. Of course, like with any community, there were nosy neighbors that knocked on my door to ask what happened, and I told them the truth. That was how I found out that a few people had video footage of Karen's meltdown, showing what she had said to me before she shoved and slapped me. I told them to let the police know what they had, since that would only bolster my case. A few neighbors were glad that Karen got her comeuppance and was, at the very least, arrested and wished me luck with the trial. Well, long story short, the trial actually finished up about a month ago, which is why I'm able to talk about it now. The evidence against Karen was overwhelming and it took less than 2 days for the proceedings to finish and the jury to make their decision. The videos from my neighbors helped and Bill even offered to testify on my behalf in order to let the court know what kind of person I was compared to Karen. I did not need witnesses, the evidence was enough. Karen tried to play the victim, of course, fumbling through an apology that I know she didn't really mean, and the judge had to tell her to stop interrupting him when he was trying to ask her lawyer questions. After I won the case, I had a few members of the HOA come to me and let me know how happy they were. Apparently, I was not the only person that Karen had focused on for her threats of the HOA board, but apparently I was the first one who ever had something violent happen, so there's that. Either way though, the entire neighborhood was talking about other things Karen had done, like cutting down a neighbor's bushes accidentally with a hedge trimmer or letting her kids wander into other people's yards. Karen became the talk of the neighborhood in the worst way possible, and I never saw her outside snooping around again. Now I can finally enjoy my pool without worry. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. My husband and I have been happily married for 3 years now, and we moved into our house together a year ago after months of searching for the right place and spending a good amount of our savings in order to purchase it. I have loved decorating and making the house unique to us, as well as having wonderful people in the neighborhood to spend time with. Rich, my husband, works a classic 9-to-5 job while I work afternoon shifts at a local shop to earn some extra money for myself. The main point of contention in our relationship is my mother-in-law, Karen. From the start, she held a grudge against me and even announced to people at our wedding that I was not good enough for her baby boy. I know she does not like me because of my family background and the fact that I am African American. My parents were very poor and struggled to make ends meet, so I learned to be hardworking from a young age to support 2 working parents, and I love them in spite of our difficulties. However, I have lost both of them due to medical issues, although they died years apart. Karen almost certainly looks down on me because of where I came from and refuses to acknowledge the love I share with Rich. I've done my best to be kind to her because I don't want to constantly get into fights with her or put Rich in a position where he has to pick sides. Karen does not feel the same way and frequently starts arguments with me. It took a downhill turn when we invited her to stay with us. She was having some financial difficulties and didn't have anywhere else to stay, so we opened up our home to her the way most family members would. Things were alright in the beginning and we stayed out of each other's hair. She always seemed to give me a sideways glance when I left for work, despite the fact that she spent the whole day sitting on our couch and watching reality TV. I started noticing that things were off when items I had left in my room were seemingly moved while I was out. I blamed it on my own memory at first and ignored it until I noticed objects in our drawers were being moved around. To be honest, this was strange because I knew I had not opened them and the bedside table drawer on my side of the bed was never touched by my husband. I just knew that Karen was snooping through our stuff and I confronted her about it. She denied it, but I just told her that I would appreciate her keeping her hands off of our belongings. She freaked out and actually called 911 on me. The cops arrived and were understandably confused. Karen tried to say that I was falsely accusing her of a crime, but I reiterated that I was not trying to get her in trouble, but instead wanted to keep my things private as long as she was living with us. The police just told us to listen to each other and then left. I dropped the issue because I didn't want to make our living arrangements any more strained than they already were and made sure to keep Rich updated. He then talked to his mom and it seemed like things were going better until I went out to my car one afternoon to go to work only to find out that one of my tires had been slashed. I tried to tell myself that it was not Karen, but nothing else made any sense. I kept my cool and worked on changing the tire as fast as I could, but I still ended up being a little late for work. Thankfully, my boss was understanding regarding the issue and cut me some slack, which I appreciated. When I got home, Karen asked about my day at work and I told her that despite being late, it had gone well. She actually said, "You didn't get fired?" Which cemented the belief that she had sabotaged my car in hopes that I would lose my job and that Rich would divorce me. Her plan did not make any sense because I only worked out of my own free will, not because my husband wanted me to. It didn't stop there though. She managed to find out the password to my phone and would turn off my morning alarm to force me to be late, but it didn't work because my body wakes me up at the same time every day, not to mention that I sometimes don't work until the afternoon. One time I got to work and my boss pulled me aside to ask about the text I had sent him. I was confused and he showed me his phone with a message from me that said, "I quit." I told him that I had not sent that, but I was pretty sure it had been my mother-in-law. My boss was sympathetic and just told me to change my phone's password and keep it out of reach of her whenever possible. I then talked to Rich about everything and he agreed that what she was doing was wrong, but reminded me that she had nowhere else to go and he did not want her to be left on the streets or in a dangerous area. He promised to talk to her about getting a job, something he did not end up doing even though she didn't listen to him, and I agreed to let her stay a little while longer. And by the way, Ripe Stars, I would have already cut out that mother-in-law from my life at that moment. If you would have done the same, please let me know in the comments. That person definitely overstepped her boundaries by a mile. So anyway, we decided to go on a short trip to a lakeside cabin and give Karen some time to herself that would hopefully motivate her to look for a way to earn some money. The place we stayed at was very peaceful and beautiful and we enjoyed sitting by the water and cooking for just the two of us since we hadn't been getting much time to ourselves in our home. We then arrived home feeling tired mostly from the drive and were looking forward to being in our own home again. However, we were not able to unlock our doors with our keys, which did not make any sense. I asked Rich if it's possible his mother changed the locks and he shook his head but did not seem sure about it. We knocked and Karen came to the door asking what we needed. She refused to address me and welcomed my husband home, inviting him to come inside. He asked why I could not come in and she replied with, "Monkeys like her are not allowed in this house and you really should divorce her." Rich was furious and pushed his way into the home and gestured for his mom to come with him, but the second I stepped inside she freaked out and started screaming. She pulled out her phone and called the police despite protestations from Rich, who just wanted her to calm down and talk about it, but she ignored him. When the cops arrived, Karen started shouting about how I was trespassing. Luckily for me, one of the officers was an old co-worker of mine and they took my side pretty quickly once I proved that I owned the house with my husband. They took down the relevant information and asked Karen why she would change the locks on the house while we were out, which she denied doing despite the fact that we hadn't been able to get into our house. They then asked Rich and I what we wanted to do about the situation, and we were discussing it with each other when Karen came at me with a hammer that she must have been using to change the locks earlier. She managed to hit my arm and left a nasty bruise there, although her swing lacked enough strength to do any significant damage. The officers immediately put her in handcuffs and took her away. Rich decided that we would press charges because despite being his mother, she had gone too far. We later found out that she had had a decent amount of money saved up and had lied to us in an attempt to get into our house and drive Rich and I apart. We were stupid enough to have been letting her stay out of the goodness of our hearts, but she was taking advantage of their kindness in order to ruin our marriage. She failed, however, and is now facing a solid amount of jail time, all because she could not handle me being married to her son. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I guess I am lucky that my future mother-in-law, at least from what it seems like right now, is actually not really a bad person and certainly would not turn out like the person in this story. Have you ever had any issues with your father or mother-in-law? And you know what I also noticed is, most of these stories always are concerned with mother-in-laws but never with father-in-laws. Which is interesting if you think about it. But anyway, if you enjoyed the story, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video if you want to support me. The next one is titled Starbucks Karen. This just happened at the Starbucks I'm still sitting at. I'm a regular customer at a Starbucks in my town, and for reference I was just sitting at a table watching this happen. So a woman walks up to the counter with her drink, dragon fruit iced tea with lemonade in it, and calls over the barista. Woman: "Hi sir, could you please remake this drink?" Barista: "Yeah sure, what's the problem with it?" Woman: "It made me feel sick, there's something wrong with your lemonade." "Remake it right now." Barista: "Okay, no problem ma'am." So he goes to remake the drink and rinses the cup, cap and straw with water. He hands her back the cup and straw and she goes, "Oh, it's okay, you can just use another cup and stuff, you have it, don't you?" So this guy uses another cup to make the drink. She takes it back and then starts getting mad. Woman: "Did you use the same lemonade from the pitcher?" Barista: "Yes ma'am, that's the lemonade we use for everyone." Woman: "Can you just get the concentrate and put it in my drink?" Barista: "For sure." He makes the drink for a third time with a third cup per request of the woman and hands it back to her. She finally seems happy and walks back to her table. You would think that's it, but no. This woman just doesn't seem to ever be happy. She comes up to the counter and calls the barista over. I kid you not, these are her exact words. Woman: "Can you have someone else make this for me? You must be new here and making it wrong. I'm a regular, so I feel like I should be treated better than this." Barista: "Actually, I've been here for a little over a year, and I've never seen you before. If you need me to, I can make the drink for you again." The woman throws the cup at the barista, cussed him out, and leaves the store in a rage. At this point, I feel so bad for the barista that I go over and help him clean up the mess she made. So that was the crazy Starbucks experience I just had. The next one is titled Never Mess with Your Employees. I worked at a grocery store for 4 years, and at the time I was 3 years into this job. I was working part-time while going to school, and I was working in the frozen department, which most people didn't want to do. I got a co-worker who we will call Karen. She was full-time and older than me. She was awful and everyone who knew her in the store hated her. Our manager and upper managers hated her and never wanted to deal with her. Each department had a minimum of 2 phones. One was a wired phone on our desks and the other one was a mobile phone with a clip. If our manager was in, he would have it. If not, the first person would grab it and pass it on when they left or took lunch. That was standard procedure till one day I had held the phone as I was the first one in and had been answering calls as they had come in. Karen comes in an hour after me. She clocks in and comes up to me. "OP, I need the phone." "Okay, do you need to make a call?" I asked, wondering what she needed this early. "No, I'm supposed to have the phone." She demands her hand still out. I give it to her, a little bit confused. "Okay, here, have it." "Why are you supposed to have it?" Asking, confused at the statement. "I'm a full-time and you're not. Full-timers are supposed to be the only ones who have the phones," she replies, rolling her eyes at me. Cue malicious compliance. On the next shift I come in, my manager is not in. I don't grab the phone. I leave it on the charger at our shared desk. I get to work and start my morning duties. I continue to work and talk with people. An hour and a half later, when Karen finally comes in late, this happens. She demands where the phone is and I tell her it's on the desk. She storms off and grabs it. I continue to work for the next couple of hours. At some point our store manager comes over to me while I am working in the aisle. "Hey OP, is your manager working today?" "Hey, no, he is not." "It's just Karen and I working today." "Okay, who has the phone?" "I keep calling it," he asks, confused as most of the time calls get answered quickly. "Well, Karen has it." "Why don't you have it?" he asks, fully knowing that when our manager is not here and I am, I have it as an answer and can give solutions. "Well, Karen told me that you said only full-time employees are allowed to carry phones." I replied, "That's true." "You are full-time." "I'm not full-time, I'm part-time." I remind him. He asks me to fill ice in our liquor store freezer as it had been since I filled it less than an hour ago. He also asked me where Karen was because she was not in our aisle. I tell him she's supposed to be in the next aisle stocking items there. I walk towards the back to grab ice. I was not there when the store manager got to her, but she had left the phone on the table she was using to fill items and did not hear it ringing multiple times. The store manager was pissed and told her off for not answering and telling her she should not have the phone if she was going to leave it lying around. 10 minutes after speaking with the store manager, he came up to me again after I had gotten out of our freezer. He gave me the phone and told me that I should probably keep it on me. And the next one is titled, "Illegal Business Gets Rounded Up." We live in a new and small apartment complex, only 40 units within 2 buildings. It is very low-key and within walking distance to our downtown. It's also very affordable for how convenient of a location it is. Back in September we noticed a vacant unit beside us was getting moved into by a new tenant with furniture, decor, etc. One weekend not long after moving in, we heard what sounded like a little party with music and loud voices well past midnight. We heard a lot of people coming in and out the front door, but letting the door slam each time to where it shook the walls. Maybe they were having a housewarming party or a friends get together at the new place, I have no idea. So we brushed it under the rug as a one-off incident. For the next few weeks we noticed a variety of people coming in and out of this apartment, and none of them seemed to be the same individuals. Parking also started to become much more busy than usual, as well as the cars kept changing. So something seemed off. My girlfriend started working night shifts for her job not long after the neighboring apartment became occupied. She is a light sleeper and noticed that all throughout the morning and before going to work, the neighbor's door was always slamming and shaking the walls. She understands that people are active in the day and she cannot ask people to cater to her night shift needs, but she felt the constant slamming of doors was not only disruptive but unusual behavior. One particular morning was the straw that broke the camel's back. She finally had enough because of the effect it was having on her sleep. She wanted to see who was slamming the door. She heard the door slamming around 10:30 AM and got up and witnessed people walking to their car with suitcases and leaving. Soon after, a man arrived and pulled up the front doormat and retrieved a key and let 2 women with cleaning supplies into the apartment. Each time they entered or left, the door would slam and shake the wall. Seeing this, she searched Airbnb and almost immediately found the rental unit next door. Same floor plans, wall plane, flooring, etc. To our surprise and anger, we found a total of 4 listings in our apartment complex alone on the host's profile. That's 10% of the apartments in our building. Through the listings, we found the individual's LinkedIn and business website. On his website, he claims that he does something called rental arbitrage. Essentially, this is renting out a long-term rental on short-term basis, aka lease an apartment and rent it out on Airbnb for profit. This can be done legally with the landlord's permission, which I think is called subletting or something. The lease agreement does not allow for subletting or short-term rentals, and they were renting out 3 out of the 4 ground units offered, units with unique floor plans. The 4th unit was a handicap-accessible unit, and that's right. This man and his business partner leased an apartment meant for accommodating people with disabilities with the intention of using it for this little short-term rental business empire he was trying to build. Our city and region, like in other places, have been feeling the squeeze on apartment availability, and these dickheads are contributing to the problem. It was at this point that we took this personally, as we had our own problems dealing with apartment availability, wait lists, disappointment and frustration. My girlfriend called the leasing office and notified them that the neighboring unit is being rented out on Airbnb and asked if that was allowed, to which the office gave an empathetic "absolutely not" and asked for the listings to be sent to them in an email. Later that day, the office called her back and said they notified the tenant that they would be inspecting the apartments the following afternoon. After the inspection was completed, the office notified that they had sent a cease and desist, docent of any rental activities outside the lease agreement or face eviction. They also told us that you should not have any more problems concerning the matter, and if you do, don't hesitate to give us a call. Now this douchebag has 4 leases he is stuck paying $1,500 per month for and cannot make any more money through Airbnb. He is bleeding money at the tune of about $6,000 per month. His only legal options are to continue paying for them or to break the lease and vacate. Last week we watched as movers emptied out the apartments. I'm sure they lost deposits and or were penalized for breaking the lease. A very expensive lesson for being greedy entrepreneurs. Don't be idiots, folks. Also, don't piss off a night shifter trying to sleep. And to end the video, we will read a small story from r/petty revenge. It is titled, "A customer was rude to me, so I gave her $95 in the smallest bills I had." So this older lady asked me for her check. Okay, cool, no problem. I print it out. It is $4 and some change. She puts a $100 bill on it and does not even bother to look at the total. I politely asked if she happens to have anything smaller. She didn't look at it, so I figured maybe she didn't know just how cheap it was. Maybe she had a $5 bill. Maybe she would like to charge it to her card or something. And disclaimer, yes, I'm aware that people who are paying with a Benji Frankie probably don't have anything smaller, hence why they are paying with it in the first place. But I tried to have the benefit of the doubt. So she snapped back at me and said, "No, I don't." Oh, okay, my bad. Her change was $95, I had 2 20s left. I could have given her at least one, but no, instead I gave her 5 $1, 5 $5 and the rest in 10s, because why are you being mean to me right now? And yeah guys, thank you for watching, I will see you again tomorrow.